Yes.
Thank you for your response. Thanks everyone. Okay, so we'll continue with question 6. Last week we ended at question 5, which is the greatest challenge in answering the call to leadership. Okay, that was question 5 last week, and which was the decision making. Okay, so today we'll continue with question 6. Question 6 is, can a leader actually lead and serve at the same time? So what do you think? So last week we mentioned about servanthood, right? So this week for question 6, basically we are talking about servanthood as a leader. And I would like to say that most of the time, it's quite common that we all have the misconception that the role of followers is to serve, right? And leaders to be served. But in actual fact, it's not. And even like, I mean, our Christian also, we say that, the first shall be the last shall be the first kind of thing. And then leaders are to be are to serve others. And yeah, so this is what John C. Maxwell say lah. And most people, like most potential leaders, they overestimate the perks and underestimate the price of leadership. A lot of people, like sometimes we look at the leaders, wow, they get to enjoy a lot of perks and all the um good privileges and stuff like that, but there are a lot of price to pay as a leader as well. And when we focus on the benefits of the leadership, you become self-serving. Okay, so let's see, there are two kinds of, before that, okay, here, leadership is actually servanthood, by Ed Zor, a chairman and former CEO of Northwestern Mutual. Okay, so here it says most potential leaders overestimate the perks and underestimate the price of leadership. When they focus on the benefits of leadership, they become self-serving. So as you can see the illustration in this picture, as a boss, you command people what to do, and then you sit there, people serve you. But as a leader, you go down and do it together with your followers. So, two kinds of leaders, the difference. First is the self-serving leader, another is the serving leader. Two types of question that they will ask. On the left side of the screen, self-serving leaders, they usually ask, what are others doing for me? Whereas a serving leader, he will ask, what am I doing for others? Self-serving leaders see people as workers they own. And serving leaders, they see people as teammates on loan. Self-serving leaders put their own interests ahead of the team's. But serving leaders, they put the team's interests ahead of their own. Self-serving leaders manipulate people to their own advantage. But for a serving leader, they motivate people for mutual advantage. So you see the two difference in the two types of leadership. Yeah. Okay. Clear. Now next. Um. Okay. So if we want to be the best leader that we can possibly be, so no matter how much or how little natural leadership talent we possess, we need to become a serving leader. And to be a serving leader is actually a choice. There's no need like talent or whatsoever. You just need to make the choice. So what it takes to serve others is within our control. Okay, so there's three serving others. There are three issue. Okay, first one is the attitude issue. So what is an attitude issue? Attitude is like something that you do, you portray yourself like every day. Service is just a day in day out, ongoing, never ending, unremitting, persevering, compassionate type of activity. So so serving others is a matter of attitude, and it is contagious. Okay, and next one is serving others is a motive issue. Motive issue is one of the founder of Robert K. Greenleaf Center of Servant Leadership. He say the servant leader is servant first. It begins with the natural feeling that one wants to serve and to serve first. Then the conscious choice brings one to aspire to lead. The difference manifests itself in the care taken by the servant first to make sure that other people's highest priority needs are served. So when we go into leadership with the motive to serve others, to serve the team, and to serve the organization, it will be hard for us to go any wrong. This is the motive. And then the last one is the value issue. I think we talk about value. If we value our people, we will definitely want to add value to them as well and to serve them. Okay. So like how do you say, okay, hold on. Value. So okay. There is no like value issue is like you adding value into your people lah. Okay, then by giving your service to them, that is serving others. Okay, then usually we give, like previously we talk about adding value into your people, which means you add value to them, they will value you. It's a win-win kind of situation. So when you how to say, here says that everyday organizations are responsible for the greatest waste in business. That is the human potential. So if we can develop people and help them to discover their strength zone, everybody wins. So this is a topic that we have talked about before. Yeah. And yeah, so this is basically about it. Okay, for servant leadership. And there's a question that a leader should ask about serving. First, do we want to, if you want to find out whether you are serving leader, we need to ask ourselves these questions. Why do I want to lead others? And how important is status to me? Do others work for me or with me? Am I glad to serve others and do it cheerfully? And is my team better because I am on it? And exactly how is it better? So these are the questions that if we ask ourselves and to evaluate whether we are a serving leader or we want to be served. Yeah. So if you find it difficult or beneath you to serve others, your heart may not be right. So to earn the right to lead in greater things, first learn to serve in smaller ones. Yeah, so this is basically about question 6. Edmund, do you want to add anything?
I think we all have heard frequently enough the difference between a self-serving leader and a servant leader. I think most of us know that, or we have been told so frequently that we should be concerned about serving others and not be serving ourselves. Now, of course, in terms of application, each one of us will have to work on that lah.
Okay.
But I have another issue I actually want to raise about servant leader. Is it possible to be serving wrongly?
You mean we serve in our, as a leader, you serve wrongly, is it?
Yes. Have you seen people who are very nice? They are very nice people. They are very often we are seeing them as very nice servant. And very often to the extent where very often they are being abused.
Yeah.
Have you
Okay.
seen it? They are not leaders. They are servants. And they definitely are not leaders. Why I say they are not leaders? They have been abused. So how do you be a servant so that you actually not serving wrongly and yet you are still leading? In other words, you can be serving and not leading. But how can you be sure that you are serving and leading?
Very good question. How?
Would you agree? Would you agree with me that there are people who are serving but they are not leading?
Yep.
Yeah. So, what's the difference then? Why do they end up being a servant but they're not leading? So my question to you also is this: how do you prevent yourself from serving to the point where you're not leading? Now, could this be a deterrent for you from serving? Because a lot of people may have observed and see other people abuse this kind of servant. And if you have seen people abusing servanthood, do you think you would want to be a servant?
No.
I agree or not? Agree or not? So very often we have seen that, and so seeing this kind of servant will deter us from wanting to be a servant. Isn't it right? I mean, I still remember there are times when I've seen, we are supposed to be servant. We have been taught to be servant. But then when I see some servant, that's the last thing I want to be. You look at how the servant is being taken for granted. Now, if you look at Jesus, Jesus is the best example of a servant. But is he taken for granted? So the question then is, how do you be a servant and a leader at the same time? How do you avoid becoming a servant that loses its leadership?
To draw a line.
Now, for Jinli, you say you must know the end in mind. First question I want to ask you, whose end in mind? Your end in mind or the other person's end in mind? Now, mind, you talk first, you think first, and you talk first. Come on.
I think what you say is true, because sometimes, like, being a leader, when you do too much work, your team member will bully you also one day. And if you're too nice, then people will just tend to don't care, and in the end you yourself get burned out lah.
So when people are bullying you, are you leading? Are you being a positive influence?
No, that's why I think sometimes we need to learn to draw the line and not to be too nice to certain extent. No, I mean, as a leader, you still must have the leader lah. Like, people must still respect you to some extent, even though you are down there doing the dirty, putting your hands, doing the dirty works together. Everyone like do together kind of thing. But I think.
But if you think about it, Jesus went all the way down and washed the disciples' feet.
Yeah.
So how do you know when you should go down and wash people's feet? And how do you know when you shouldn't?
When do I know? That's a very good question.
Should I leave you hanging and let you all go and find out yourself?
I don't like that lah. You need to find out already. Then next week everybody will forget about this one. We'll proceed to the next question. The next question already.
No. Okay. I will give you 2 words. Again, this is something for you to explore further.
Okay.
2 words.
Mm.
The 2 words very important that will help us to distinguish when you should serve and when you should not.
Okay.
Is the word wish, W-I-S-H, versus the word well-being.
Okay.
The key is, to me, I recognize that the key is wishes versus well-being. Okay, yeah, wishes versus well-being. This is what I mean. I'm not here to serve everybody's wishes. But I'm here to serve everybody's well-being.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, in other words, it is possible that the person requires something from me based on his or her wishes, but not his or her well-being. In other words, sometimes you can know that when a person wants something from you, it is based on a wrong motive. If it is based on a wrong motive and you endorse it, it's going to harm the person further.
Yep, okay.
It's going to build the person's wrong being. That means you are encouraging the person to continue to be wrong. And that's not servanthood. That's called foolishness. That's why, be very clear. That's why when you are serving other people's wishes, and in the process, especially in cases where that person's wishes is not constructive to that person or to everybody else around or to the community or to the world, you are not being a good leader. Your servanthood is not leadership anymore. Because your servanthood is no longer constructive. Your servanthood no longer contributing positively and not influencing other people to become more positive or to become more constructive. That's why the key is very simple. I mean, if you think about it, you look at Jesus' life. Is he a servant when he scolded? He scolded other people. He went into the temple and then he go and whip and whack people. He go and scold people. He scold people hypocrite. And yet we are saying that Jesus is a servant leader. And to what extent is he a servant leader? Because he puts the well-being of the other person first. Okay? Even though the other person wishes is different from his own well-being, Jesus put the other person's well-being over his wishes. And he will do whatever necessary to increase that person's well-being. So this is what servant leader is. And that's where servant and leading can fit. So be very careful from becoming only a servant. Because that's not right. You're not serving destructively for in other words, you have a choice to give of your service. You're literally giving of your time and your energy for the service of others. But the key is, are you giving of yourself for the service of others constructively or destructively? If it is constructive, It will create positive influence and makes you a leader. If it is destructive, no, you're not. You're not being a good steward. You're not being a good example. That's not the servant leader that in this case is talking about. So be extremely careful from being a nice guy. Servant leader is not a nice guy. Servant leader is a right guy. Doing what is right, not doing what is nice. So we have to be extremely careful with understanding what servanthood is. Servanthood has nothing to do with being nice. Because very often being nice is not being right. Agree or not? Think about it. Is it true? Very often we have seen people being nice, but they're not doing the right thing because they are allowing the wrong to continue. They're allowing people to continue doing the wrong thing or to continue to fall into certain negative continue negatively. Now that's not right. That's being nice. Yes. You're being nice. You're not hurt. You're trying to avoid hurting the person emotionally. Or you're trying to avoid irritating the person. You're being nice. Which is why if we look at it very clearly, Jesus doesn't. Jesus isn't nice. Jesus is nice when the nice helps. But Jesus is not nice when the nice don't help. Okay? Any question? Any comment? Any feedback? Any example? Any from anybody?
No.
Okay. I hope this helps in the way you make decisions to do things as well. That's why very often in a lot of things we do, especially in a company, very often when we are subordinates, we are not superior, we are subordinate. And when we notice something is not right with our peers or with our superior, when we are being nice, we may not be a leader. We will not be a servant leader either. Okay, you're just trying to avoid difficulty, and that's self-serving. That's why very often being nice is more self-serving than servant leader. Because you are watching out for yourself only. You're saying, I don't want to end up with in a negative relationship with my boss or with my peer. I want to avoid the yeah. Now I'm not saying that you should go and simply hurt people. But I'm saying is that when you have to do something, you may have to hurt people. But of course, you can proceed with the best approach to minimize the hurt. It's two different things. Okay? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Edmund. Okay, so that's it for question 6. Okay, we'll proceed to question 7, yeah? There's a quote for you. The servant leader is servant first. It begins with the natural feeling that one wants to serve as opposed to wanting power, influence, fame, or wealth. Okay, so you put another person's well-being above your own desire. Next, question 7. What are the top skills required to lead people through sustained difficult times? So one of the most challenging tasks any leader faces is being a change agent and leading people through tough times. But it can also be one of the most rewarding one. As it is written, all of the great leaders have had one characteristic in common. It was the willingness to confront unequivocally the major anxiety of their people in their time. So this question basically says like tough times actually shows ourselves. when the people that we lead find out who they are, and as leader, we also find out what we are made of, right? As author Jack Kinder says here, you are not made in crisis, you are revealed. Like there's this illustration. It says like when you squeeze an orange, you get what? And you get orange juice, lor. So when you squeeze a lemon, you get lemon juice, lor. Right? Then how about when a human being squeeze? What will happen? What do you get? You basically get what is inside of us, which is either you're positive or you're negative. So basically, when overall you're a very positive person, you will do things differently. And when you're a very negative person, the way you approach things will be negative as well. All right. So the best way to approach tough times is to try to see them as opportunity. Most people want their problems to be fixed without them having to face them, but that is not possible. So as a leader, as a coach, we need to help people to solve problems, and we need to take responsibility and to work to make things better. All right. Like this, there's this Chinese word. How many of you know Chinese, know Mandarin? Edmund, can you read Mandarin?
No.
How about the rest? Do y'all know how to read Mandarin? No? Any response? Yes, Jin Lee. Great. Okay, so most of you can read Mandarin. So what is crisis in Mandarin? Can somebody tell me what is crisis in Mandarin? Tough time ahead. So like now, COVID-19 crisis. Okay. So yes, you're right. Exactly. Okay, Shiwei is right. In Mandarin, crisis means 危机. So okay, let me go to this slide. 危机. This is the two Mandarin word for crisis. And actually, if you break down to individual word, 危 means danger. 机 is opportunity. 机会的机. So in every crisis, there is an opportunity. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this quote, like especially during the COVID-19 started, when the whole world have locked down, blah, 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 things like that happen. There are people out there that still see opportunity during this whole crisis, this whole pandemic. So the best way to see tough time is to try to see them as opportunity. Okay? All right. 危机就是转机 or yeah, you're right, 子贤 good one. 危机就是转机. What is 转机 in English? Like a turning point lah, which means crisis is a turning point in our lives. Any feedback? No, okay, I shall proceed. So with here it says John C. Maxwell recommend that we should lead and serve people during difficult time. How? First is to define the reality. Which means we have to face lah. We have to face the reality lah. Define it lah. Don't say like, oh, let's forget about this whole thing lah. To deny the reality or whatsoever. But we need to define the reality for our people. Okay, this is the first responsibility of a leader.
Okay, can I just interrupt?
Can.
This is realize the first thing is define reality. Not be positive.
Okay.
That's why that's why there's this wrong. I really believe it's wrong.
Okay.
When people keep saying, no, don't worry, be positive. Look at everything positively. Just look at positive. Don't look at the negative. Look at the positive. Be positive, and you will go through. Now, no, I don't agree. Okay, it's not be positive. to me, I would say be real.
Mm.
I'm not asking you to be negative either. Be real is not to be negative. Be real is also not to be positive. When you are supposed to define reality, what does that mean? You literally write down both the positive and the negative.
Okay.
That's what reality is, isn't it? That's why be very clear in life. Okay? No, I fully agree you shouldn't be negative. But I also must go against this positive mindset. That's why I think recent case there are some of those extreme people who have fallen or who are practicing this kind of be positive mindset, and you see that there's one case in this America Got Talent. And then this American boy, a teenage boy, went for audition. Very positive. He said, I can, and I will. And wow, he sounded totally positive. He refused to look at anything negative. And he went up on stage and he sang. Very positive. He behaved extremely positive. He cannot sing. But he was so positive that he refused to believe that he cannot sing. He refused to listen to all the negative comment of the judges and the audience. He continued to sing. Sing to the point where the judges walk out. Now, if you think about it, is the boy being positive?
Very young.
Positive to the point that it is unrealistic. That's why be extremely careful with this philosophy of life. This is a wrong philosophy of life. In this world, there is evil, there is pain, there is sorrow. Being positive is like shutting your eye, refusing to see the evil, the sadness, and the pain. Okay? Now, the other extreme is being negative, is to keep seeing the evil, the negative, the pain. Okay? Being positive is refusing to see the evil, the negative, the pain. Being reality is recognizing at what position. In other words, there are moments in life where you probably may have more positive than negative, or other situations, other times, you have more negative than positive. I mean, isn't it? Everything in life, there will be times that were harder. There are times that are easier. Okay? In other words, it's like a cup of water. At times, your cup of water is very little. But at times, your cup of water is more than half. Okay? Quite full. So it varies. It keeps going up and down. But your reality helps you to know how to deal with it. When the water level goes down, what do you do? When the level water goes up, what do you do? And having the ability to see reality is a very important skill to develop. Okay, having the ability to see reality. Most of the time, in other words, it's possible to see overly positive or to see overly negative. How do you see it properly, correctly? That's the question. Actually, this connects to the second point. One of the ways that helps us to see reality is to see holistically, which is what the second one is about, the big picture. Okay, back to you.
Oh, okay. So that's the first one. No, like during like crisis, during tough time, how do we sustain? What skill do we need to require to lead our people through difficult time? First is define reality, but just like you say, we need to define the reality to state all the positive and the negative outcome that we will be able that we might face, so that we will have, when you have all these, and then you'll be able to strategize lah, right? To strategize a better plan to overcome tough times. So second one is to remind them of the big picture. I think many times in our life, when we see problems, we tend to focus on problem more than our end goal, or anything lah, like anything that comes in between. Then we will tend to just keep focusing on that, and then we forget what is our end goal. We forget the big picture, and we just keep focusing on that small little things that trigger us at that time, that point of time. So second point is to help them to see the big picture, like vision. Vision is the world's most desperate need. There is no hopeless situations, only people who think hopelessly. So leaders are keepers and communicators of the vision. Our leaders, we bear the responsibility for always seeing the big picture and helping their people to see it as well. And people, we need to be reminded, all of us, we need to be reminded always, constantly, as why we are doing what we do, and of the benefits that awaits us as a reward of our hard work. We need to be reminded of this. Yeah, so this is basically reminding our people of the big picture. When we are reminded, when we remember, oh yeah, that is our end goal, that was the vision that we saw, so you will have more to overcome tough times together. Yeah, any input on this?
Continue lah. Continue.
Okay. So, and then the next one is to help them to develop a plan. Plan is important. So we need to develop, before we can develop a strategy to get out of difficult time, we must know where we are and where we want to go. And so if you have helped people by defining reality, which I've already mentioned on the first point, and you show them big pictures, so the next task is to identify the steps that required to go from one point to another point. So not everyone finds it easy to do that, but as a leader, we need to come alongside with them and to help them to figure it out. So after you develop a plan, we need to help them to make good choices as well. And John C. Maxwell's favorite saying is, there is a choice you have to make in everything you do. Everything we do, we need to make a choice. So keep in mind that in the end, the choice that you make makes you. People's choices define who they are and determine where they go. I find this is so true. Every single day of our life, we are making choices, and every single choice that we make will make us. They will determine the outcome, right? So it's true that we don't choose everything we get in life, but much of what we get comes from what we have chosen. Agree? So especially leaders, we are the one that have even more choices to make. The more good choices that you made throughout your life, the better you have probably positioned yourself to help others as well. Not only because you have gained experience or developed wisdom, but also because repeated good choices often lead to personal success and greater options. Yeah, so if these things, they are true for you, put them to good use by helping others to navigate difficult waters. So basically, this is to teach us how to make good choices. And then next one is to value and promote teamwork. Promoting teamwork is really important because especially during tough time, coming as a team, you will be able to achieve the outcome that we desire. You know, like he gave John C. Maxwell gave this illustration. He said, two shipwrecked men in tattered clothes slouched together at one end of the lifeboat. They watched casually as three people at the other end of the boat bail furiously, trying to keep the vessel afloat. And one man then says to the other, "Thank God that hole isn't in our end of the boat." So when times get tough, everybody needs to work together if they want to get the team out of trouble. And there's a quote as well that says, "As the challenge escalates, the need for teamwork elevates." So no team can win and keep winning, okay, unless everyone works together. It's the responsibility of leaders to promote teamwork and to get the members cooperating and working together. Teamwork is important. And the last one is to give them hope. Hope, in my opinion, is very important, because as long as you have hope, you will keep striving. You will keep going. We keep going because of hope, right? John W. Gardner, he says, the first and the last task of a leader is to keep hope alive. The hope that we can finally find our way through to a better world despite the day's action, despite our own inertness and shallowness and wavering resolve. Hope is the foundation of change. So if we continue to hold hope high and we help others to do the same, there is always a chance to move forward and succeed. So hope is important, all right, and we need to give our followers hope as well. And I like this last one. It says, crisis holds the opportunity to be reborn. Difficult times can discipline us to become stronger. Conflict can actually renew our chances of building better relationships. It's not always easy to remember these things, but as a leaders, our job is to remind people of the possibilities and to help them to succeed. So this is basically on question 7. These are the things that required to lead our people through to sustain difficult times. The 6 points here lah. So any question, any input, any feedback? Anyone? All right. Edmund, I proceed, yeah?
Yep.
All right. So let's go to question 8. So is it possible to be a leader in all areas of your life? What do you think? You comment in the chat box. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Okay, Jinli say no. Anyone else? Do you think you could be a leader in all areas of your life? No. Okay, great. Shiwei say no as well. Okay lah, you're right, okay? The answer is no. Short answer is no. We cannot be a leader in all areas of our life because we just cannot develop influence with everyone, and there is never enough time for us. Okay? We don't have enough time in a day or enough time in a year to be a leader in all areas of our life. And developing influence is a process. All right? I think, developing influence is a process. I think the first lesson on question 1 or 2, someone did mention about this. I think Edmund, you mentioned about this, the 5 levels of leadership. What do you call this? The 5 level. There's this chart. You mentioned before, so I found it, and then here it mentioned as well. All right. So people, we actually start our influence journey at level 1, position. We don't have to hold any position or title to start developing influence with others. But if you do have a position, you must recognize that it's the only starting point. Okay, when you have position, this is your starting point to influence others. But to begin to truly influence people, we must develop a relationship with the people. Right, sorry. And this is accomplished on level 2, as you see, permission. All right. To build upon that and to gain more influence, we must help people to be effective and work together with others on a team. And this will occur on level 3, which is the production. And all these things actually takes time, especially on the relationship. You know, building relationship takes time because you need to build trust. And when you have trust, people will listen to you more and the influence will be there, will be more effective as well. So we cannot develop deep enough relationships in every area of our life. You cannot help everyone you know to be productive as well. It is impossible. So it's okay that it's okay to know that we can't be a leader in every area in our lives. So what do? Just choose where you will invest yourself to develop influence and become an effective leader. The leadership skills that you develop will help you in all areas of your life, but you cannot expect to lead in every area. It's just not realistic lah. So this is basically what question 8 is about. It's possible. I mean, is it possible to be a leader in all areas of your life? No. All right. So let's not be too hard on ourselves, knowing that building to have influence in other people's life, to influence others takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort as well. So just choose one area and invest yourself to develop the influence and to become an effective leader. That's a takeaway point for question 8. Okay, so now last question. My chapter 5 has only 9 questions.
Can I just interrupt? Very often we are so focused on wanting to be. Recently, only I was having a little bit of can say counseling or coaching session with someone, and we are talking about the very often we are stressed out because we compare. We compare and then we ask ourselves, why am I not like this? Why am I? Yeah. Now, my question during that coaching session or the counseling session was this: is comparing wrong? Let me throw it to you. Is comparing wrong? Is it wrong to compare? Is it bad to compare? Then what is wrong? And oftentimes when we compare, it discourages us. It increase stress and increase pressure on us. Correct? It's more often discouraging than encouraging when we compare.
Yeah.
Then yet, when I ask, is comparing wrong? Everybody say no, or some of you say no. Then what is wrong? Okay, Jinli say mindset with a question mark. So, Jinli, you want to try to explain? Okay. Anybody else? Others? Anybody else? Anybody else want to try to elaborate further or add or whatever?
I think like if you compare to motivate yourself or as a reference, then to you compare to as a reference to make yourself better or to like, yeah, I think it's okay. It's not wrong. But if you compare and then you think you beat yourself up, oh yo, why am I not like that? Why am I? And then you get more demotivated, then I think you should just stop comparing.
Okay, very good. It is not comparing that is wrong. It's our attitude towards comparing that is wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of things in life are not wrong. They are just things. You cannot say something is wrong. It is always our attitude towards that something that is right or wrong. Things are just things. Comparing is just an action. You cannot say an action is right or wrong. The context of the action determines whether it's right or wrong. Your motive of the action defines right or wrong. So same thing here. And why I want to say that, I think this is something that we have to learn in our mind, in our perception. A lot of time we allow the comparing to create very negative thoughts because it's driven by unhealthy motives. Okay, use comparison as a discovery. But we need to compare. If we don't compare, how are we going to know where we are so that we can grow from where we are? Okay? Whether it be comparing with ourselves or comparing with other people. Comparing gives us a point of reference. In life, physically, we compare. We compare this point to the next point. When we look at the map, we are comparing one point to the next point. We're using one point as a point of reference to another point so that we know the distance between them. And in knowing the distance between them, we have an idea how to go from one point to another point. We need comparison in order to discover, in order to plan. So be extremely careful. So in other words, very often we need to check. Okay? We need to check what is the motive behind. So stop. One of the things we have to learn to do is stop wanting to be how to say, don't push yourself to be. Help yourself to become. Okay? Become is more important than to be. Because be is about me now. But then in life, there's always a tomorrow. Today I am. Tomorrow I become. So always becoming. The question is, the issue is to become. The important thing is to become. But we need to recognize what I am now. Your being now determines your result now. You cannot have results beyond your being. But tomorrow you can become and you can have a better result by becoming. That's why these two words, being and becoming, very important. We need to recognize being. But more important, after recognizing being, we need to proceed to become. When we recognize our being, we are recognizing our present result. Then we develop ourselves to become. Then we also develop the potential result. We bring about a potential result. So life is about being and becoming. Being is never to put us down. Being is to recognize our present point of reference so that we can work towards becoming. So even in this 5 level of leadership, right? It is there to help us to recognize where we are. Okay, and we need to be very clear, because only when we are awake and aware, then we can admit and commit. So all this information is to help us to be awake and to become aware. Then after that, we have to work on admitting and committing. So the admitting and committing will lead us to become. The awake and aware is to discover our being. Am I making sense? Okay. Mabel, back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Edmund. Okay, we'll go to the last question. It's a bit long question. What are the rhythms of leadership as you go from your 20s to your 30s to your 40s and beyond? And then next one, what should you develop, change, take hold of, or let go of as you grow into each season? So first, let's go to the 20s, 30s, 40s first. So the decades of life are actually for everyone is not the same lah, and you all know that long. All right, and they are both positive and negatives to every age. Like for example, when we are young, what do we have? We have tremendous energy, but we don't know what to do with it. We are blur, okay? And when we are older, we know what we want to do, but our bodies wear out and our energy starts to flag. All right, so you can look at the decades of a leader's life and to make some generalizations about them. Okay, let's see. First, 20s. 20s, you are in your alignment stage. 20s you are in your alignment stage. Okay, so for this alignment, we build our foundation and prepare for future success. And in your 30s is adjustments. We try different things and find out what works and what doesn't. In your 40s, advancements. Focus on one strength zone and make the most of what works. In your 50s is an assessment. We reevaluate our priorities and hopefully shift from success to significance. And in your 60s is okay, but not everyone's lives work out this way, but adjustments. We are building our foundations, and some of us, we are trying out new things to find out what works and what doesn't. So it's not, I mean, not everyone's life work out according to ages, right? There are some people who maybe, you know, trying different things to find out what works and what doesn't in a later stage, and some earlier stages and things like that. So he instead used the season. He think of our lives in terms of seasons. Now, not yet. Okay. So he learned about seasons in his first leadership position in rural Indiana, John C. Maxwell. And those people that he led during that time was farmer. I mean, they were farmer. So everything that they did is related to the seasons of the year. So there are four seasons of the year. All right, there are winter. So usually we will experience only one cycle in our lifetime. Now, not cycles continually repeated annually, but we can still learn a lot from some of the truths that farmers understand. Like, for example, every season has a beginning and an end, right? Our lives are not static lah. So even if a person chooses not to grow, your life will not remain the same, right? And people who refuse to grow professionally, they decline. And while we are in the season of our life, we should do all that we can. All right. So because some season they come and you cannot go back anymore. It's just like time. When the time is there and you don't make full use of it, you cannot go back time anymore. And another truth is that seasons always come in sequence, right? Like I said just now, winter, after winter is spring, and then after spring is summer, and then autumn. So spring always follows winter, autumn always comes after summer, and we have no control over the order, which seasons will come first, right? And the same is true of the seasons of success as well. We cannot harvest life's reward without first planting seeds. But yet, actually, many people we want to spend our entire lives in the harvest season. It doesn't work that way. So each of us is responsible for managing the seasons of our own lives. We all have been given seeds, and we all have to weather storms and drought. So it's up to us to plant and cultivate the several crops for our life simultaneously, which means we can plant because we are given seeds. We can plant a few things at the same time. And like for example, the farmers, they can plant beans, potatoes, tomatoes, corn, or whatever. They all can plant side by side to be grown, but yet they are harvested at different times. So how do we apply this? Like for us, the seed is like your season, like your family life, your career life, right? Your spiritual life, your leadership life. You can all plant together, but it will take different time to grow along the seed. And we must do what is right for the season in each area, and to do things in order as well, so that we'll be able to harvest. We'll be able to see the harvest in life. Like in Ecclesiastes says that there is time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. So sometimes people fail because not because we don't have not because we don't have the determination or willingness, but more to our efforts being out of the proper sequence. All right. Why is it said like this? Because, okay, let's see. We must learn the secret of mastering each of the four seasons. So first one is the winter. Winter is the season for planning, because um a lot of people think that, oh, winter is the time you hibernate, right? And you do nothing because you can't plant seed during winter. It will die. So people will just go hibernate and do nothing long. So but actually it's not true lah. This is for unsuccessful people. But for successful people, winter is the time of beginning, which is the time for your vision and your dreams. A time for anticipation. So setting goals and start. All right. Because if without this planning, the chance of successful harvest is very slim. So you need to identify your crops during winter. You need to know what you want to plant, and you need to start planning. You need to start to set goals during winter. Okay, so during this season is the time you spend thinking about the harvest that you want to reap someday. So this is your dreaming season and details you think of what you want to do. Okay, you must think big but plan little. Okay, because you can't really plan yet, so you must start dreaming already, and think big about what it could be, the plan how you want to get there. So this is the process for winter season. Okay, next one after winter is the spring. Spring is the season for planting. Now, this is the time where you start planting. You already have your vision, you already have your dream, you already have your plan. So now is to bring it into action. Okay, so you bring your daydream to work now. So successful people, they will understand that spring is the time to take winter plans and ideas and put them into action. It's time for enthusiastic activity, getting the seeds, preparing the soil, and start planting. This is the time where you will take energy, it takes perseverance, it takes sacrifice, and it takes good timing. So, okay, during this season is planting season. Any question? No, okay. So, okay, let me see. Okay, next one. Let's go to this one. Start planning already, long. So now summer is the season for perspiration. Perspiration, yeah. So when you think of summer, maybe a lot of people will think like, oh, summer is the time for vacation. No, actually, okay. Summer is the time for cultivation. So if you neglect in summer what you planted in spring, you will see no harvest in autumn lah. So for every successful person, summer is the time for continual and regular cultivation, watering, and fertilization. It is the time for great growth because the sun will be the hottest during this time. And yeah. So what does summer mean for someone who is not growing food for a living? It means that following through on your personal growth plan. In winter, many people dream of success. Some realize that they must learn and grow to achieve their goals and live their dreams. So those people, they plan in spring by taking a tangible step toward growth, like buying a book, subscribing to certain podcasts, finding a mentor, identifying a conference that will help them. But for many people, the effort stops there. Okay, they don't read book. They stop taking time to listen to the podcast. They don't follow through with the advice of their mentor. They don't attend conferences anymore. But and they stop sweating through the hard work, tedious, sometimes painful, but always productive work that summer requires. Summer is the hottest time. You get out there and work, you sweat the most, right? But good leaders, they cultivate themselves through personal growth. They also cultivate relationships and to grow teams. This can be slow and can be a difficult work, but it usually takes longer than we expect and it's harder than we hope actually. And there is no such thing as solitary success, okay? Nothing of significance was ever achieved without people working together. So for summer, it can be a very taxing season. The days are long, there's more work that needs to be done than there are hours in the day, but successful people keep at it. They put in effort, even though they can't really see that it's paying off. Okay. So this is when usually happens when we are cultivating lah. But we just need to keep working and to trust that the plans that we made in the winter and the hard work that we are doing during the summer is going to pay off if we stick to them. I mean, if we stick with them. So this summer is the time for you to work, and to cultivate your crops. Okay, and then last but not least, autumn is the time for produce. It's the time where you will reap your reward, lor. And if for those people who neglect the plan, who neglected to plant in winter, who neglected to plant in spring, who neglected to perspire in summer, autumn, you will regret lor, because no crops lor. Okay, so just like you watch the trees lose their leaves, you've lost, and maybe that's when some people will think that it's too late lah. Yeah. So for successful people, they make most of each season. So autumn is the time for reaping. It's the time when you receive the products of your labor. And definitely it will bring the feelings of accomplishment. Yeah, so this is the best season in life. And our ultimate goal as a leader should be to work hard enough and strategically, keyword strategically enough, that we have more than enough to give and share with others. So here, the last word that John C. Maxwell, he said, as I approach age 70, I understand this in a way I never have before. I believe God gave me a head start in life. I started early and I've spent my life expected. Wait. I spent my life planning, planting, and perspiring. And now I am reaping in ways I never expected. I have influence beyond anything I deserve and ever imagined having. And in the time I have left on this earth, my goal is to pour out every bit of it to add value to leaders who multiply value in others. My hope is that by the day I die, I will have been able to give away everything I've been given. So this is his hope. He has done all this throughout his life, and then he has already reaped his harvest lah. Harvest. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, like, if any of us, we didn't get to start as early, some, like I said, our age stages may be different, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. Whenever we find ourselves, we just do what is right for the season. No? Give all that we have, and just don't worry so much of the outcome. In time, we will understand the seasons that work with us, and the harvest will definitely come. Yeah. So this is basically what the 4 season means for this. Yeah. Any questions so far?
What can sabotage our season of harvest?
What can sabotage? Laziness.
Okay. Poor planning. Okay. COVID-19. Okay. Procrastination. Okay. It is important for us to recognize the things that can sabotage our harvest, because if we recognize them, it's easier for us to prevent ourselves from falling into that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Natural disaster, war. Okay. Actually, COVID-19, war, natural disaster do not sabotage. It's our failure to anticipate lives down that actually sabotage. War, natural disaster, disease, this is part of life. Every century, you see it happening. Okay? Now, if we allow circumstances or natural disasters, things beyond our control to affect us, it only implies that we were ignorant. And in this case, it's our ignorance and our lack of preparedness that sabotage, not So no point, what I'm trying to say is no point pointing a finger at things we cannot control. Because pointing a finger at things we cannot control, still we won't be able to control. Do you know when you can prepare for COVID-19? No. Do you know when you can prepare for war? No. Do you know when you can prepare for natural disaster? No. Do you know when you can prepare for illness? No. But do you know sometime in your life, not knowing when, do you know that some of these things may and will come in our lifetime? Yes. You see what I'm saying? Do you know when? No. So can you prepare for it? Yes. So we have no excuse for a lot of circumstances. For instance, do you know when you're going to get married? Very often, no. Do you know when you're going to have a child and have a family? Very often, no. But do you know you very likely will get married? Yes. Do you know very likely you're going to be a parent? Yes. So have you prepared for them? Very often, no. Correct? Most of the time, we prepare being a good parent only when the child comes. We prepare being a good husband or wife only when we are about to get married or when we got married. Right? Should we? Is that good planning? Very often, no. Okay? In fact, one of the biggest issues I recognize in life is a failure to anticipate. A failure to look ahead and anticipate, even though most of us have no problem recognizing the normal human cycle in life. I ask simple question. Do most of us know someday we have to get married? Yes, get married. Most likely. Unless you clearly say, I don't want to get married. But most of us don't say that. Right? We don't say that. Even if we say we don't want to get married, will you guarantee you won't get married? No. Does most of us recognize that one day we'll become parents? Yes. Does most of us recognize that one day we will have to go out and work? Yes. Does most of us recognize that one day we have to set up a home, have our own place? Yes. In fact, a lot of the times it's yes. We know very likely we will have them. But question, yet knowing we will one day have them, yet how much did we really plan in anticipation for it? No. This is one of the things I realize. There's too much distraction that keeps us busy today, so that we don't spend time in anticipation of the things that will come. And to me, that actually leads to a lot of poor produce, poor harvest. I mean, think about it, for instance. Think about it. That's why in YMAT, we have all these classes. And even classes like Gift of Pain, even classes like the other one, the Monday class, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Why have those? Very simple. Because we recognize that one day, most of us will end up with that kind of relationship, the man-woman partner relationship. And going through the class will help us to be more prepared for that level of relationship. to reduce the problems in that relationship. But think about it. Apart from YMAT lah, is there anywhere else and anybody else that even bother to offer that kind of classes to anybody? No, you don't see that. You don't see that. To me, well, that's a problem, no? Okay, because we are too busy with today. We are too busy with all the distraction that we have today. Today is too busy that we don't think in anticipate. I'm not asking you to be worried about tomorrow. I'm asking you to anticipate in preparation for tomorrow. That's why if you look at the 4 seasons, it is not just doing what requires to be done in that season. It is doing what is required to be done in that season in anticipation for the next season. Because all the 4 seasons is a connection. And we need to remember that. It's always a connection. The amount of seed you plant in spring will determine the amount of harvest you get in autumn. The amount of planning will determine how well you plant the seed. The amount of work you do in summer will determine how much the crop will multiply to create the harvest in autumn. Every season leads to the next season. So it's worthwhile for us to recognize how the previous affect the next. If we know the previous affect the next, then we can anticipate and act in the previous for the next. And I feel today there are way too much distraction that draw us away from planning and from anticipating. But we need to. I mean, regardless of whether there's that much distraction, it is still our responsibility to take out time in anticipation, in preparing for what we are going to anticipate, including natural disaster, including things beyond our control. That's the whole point of knowing the 4 seasons. Otherwise, know the 4 seasons for what? Why we want to know the 4 seasons of winter, spring, summer, autumn? Know it for what? So that we can prepare in anticipation. And in fact, for all of you are still very young. In other words, you can still prepare in anticipation for the many, many things that still will come for you. You're still young. So in other words, because you're only what? None of you are more than halfway through your life. None of you. Okay? Because none of you are more than 35. Only me. I'm already more than 3/4. And I agree with what John C. Maxwell say. I mean, for me, I'm glad the amount of time I have spent reading has actually equipped me today to coach and mentor. And it is this ability to do what I do today is the result of all the seeds that were planted many years ago. Okay? So please plant your seeds now spend a lot of time planting seeds. The number of seeds you plant today will determine the possible harvest you can have when you hit 60s, your 50s and 60s. Okay? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, Edmund. Okay, so before we end this whole chapter 5, okay, here are the questions related to getting started in leadership. So these are the 10 questions at the end of the chapter. First one is, how can a young leader establish his vision and get buy-in when he doesn't have a track record of success? Second is, how do you determine your leadership potential? How can I discover my unique purpose as a leader? It is said that to be a good leader, you must first be a good follower. Does this maxim hold true at all times? If so, at what point does a follower become a leader? And number 5, I'm a bit introverted and I believe that being more outgoing could help me to be a leader. How can I accept my personality yet bloom in connecting with others? What advice would you give to an aspiring leader trying to take the first steps into leadership? What's the first thing a leader should do when brought in from the outside to be responsible for a group of or department? How do you find balance between leading others and producing? I'm always worried about hurting people's feelings or worried about what they will think of me. What can I do to overcome this and become a stronger leader? Last but not least, how does an emerging leader establish leadership confidence without affirmation? All these are very good questions. So, Edmund, would you like to give some input, feedback, or you want us to go home and just think about this and then feedback to you next week or whatever?
You all think, and if you have any question, then you ask me.
Okay.
There's no end to what I can say to you. So it cannot, you cannot do, you all have to keep, You see, same thing like John C. Maxwell. Remember what John C. Maxwell have said, what he does? He said that when he was young, he paid money to interview all these great leaders he knew. He paid money. He offered money for the time to interview them. Now you have to remember things like that. Okay, you all must want to. You all must see the value in doing this. That means you all must see the value in learning. In other words, if somebody else have already invented the wheel, don't reinvent the wheel. Learn from them. Reinvent a better wheel. Do you make sense? But a lot of people don't do that. They don't know how to take advantage of all the knowledge and understanding that other people have already developed through their experience. And they don't have the hunger to go and learn what they have already learned. Why you want to learn again if other people have learned it? That's why I like book study. Book study is not learning something new. It's not trying to discover something new. It's learning what other people have discovered so that I can take what people have already discovered. I learn them quickly. Then I discover new stuff. You should be coming out with principles that has not been written. But how do you come up with principles that have not been written if you have not first learned the principles that are already written? And that's what learning is all about. Reading books is all about. Trying to read all these principles that other people have written is all about. That's why John C. Maxwell did. He got and asked those questions. There's no book, but he got and asked. It's written in other people's mind. So he paid money to go and ask so that he can capture them. Now, very few young people do that, Unfortunately, very sad. And the very sad thing is this: when you even offer all these classes, these young people don't see the value in it. Right? And they allow a lot of this busyness to keep them from these things, these seeds, these valuable seeds that can affect your future and improve your future. So why do we want to allow our present busyness to hinder the betterment of our future? To me, it's sad. What's the point of just a better today without a better tomorrow? Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, you think about it. Are you contented with today being good? Or do you want tomorrow to be better? If you're focused on today being good, that's all you will be in your life. That's the level that you will be today. Okay? But if you continue to focus on, no, I still want today to be good, but I will take out time to make tomorrow better, then tomorrow will have the possibility to be better than today. But only if you have taken time out from today to be invested in tomorrow. I'm not asking you to spend your whole today thinking about tomorrow. That's called worry. Okay? That's called worry. Planning is not worry. Planning is I take a small portion of today's time to invest in tomorrow. That's called planning. Worry is I allow my mind to be preoccupied all the time about tomorrow. That's called worry. You see? If my mind is preoccupied about tomorrow all the time, that's worrying. But if I discipline myself to cut off, to block off, to protect the fixed amount of time today to be invested in tomorrow, that's called planning. That's called investment. And we need to do that. We really need to do that. Because tomorrow is much more than today. Most of you, your marriage life haven't come yet. Most of you, your parenthood haven't come yet. Most of you, your success story hasn't come yet. Right? Most of you haven't become grandparents yet. Hey, even in terms of parenting, there are stages. Parenting a toddler is totally different from parenting a child. It's totally different from parenting a teenager. It's totally different from parenting a young adult. It's totally different from parenting your child planning to get married and becoming a father. It's totally different. To the point where I become a grandparent. So to me, always, maybe the Pareto principle is helpful. The 90-10 or 80-20.
80-20.
Our life, well, doesn't matter. You can choose 90-10, you can choose 80-20. But to me, when you are young, it should maybe even hit the point of 70-30. 70% of your time focus on today, 30% of your time invest in tomorrow. But as you grow older, your percentage will move to 80-20, 90-10. When you hit my age, it's 95-5.
Wow.
I mean, think about it. Think about it. At my age, right? The biggest anticipation is what? How I die. And how, when I die, how it impact my family I leave behind. Isn't it? And most of the 95 is, hey, I don't have much time left. I better invest everything that I have now. So I'm hitting a point where it's something like 95.5. 95 of my energy is today, now, what I can do, what I can contribute, how I can invest in today, in the people today. 5% is on about the next 5 years or 10 years, because that's about all I have. Right? And a little bit about how Ian is going to become independent financially, right? And how he's going to get married, and what kind of wife he's going to choose, how he prepares to be a father, right? And how I die. Okay? You will see life is like that. You will see life is like that. Okay? Now, for you all, no. For you all, honestly, you should be investing more time in your future, because your future is more than your past. You have 30, 40 years still there. 30, 40 years. And you have still a lot of roles and responsibility you haven't played. You haven't executed. You haven't lived through. And you have those roles and responsibility that you will most likely live through. Now, all those roles or responsibility that you will be stepping into, you better be ready. And if with all those so many roles and responsibility that you need to step into, don't you think you need more time to prepare for all of those roles and responsibilities you need to step into, to ensure that you have a good harvest at the end? I mean, think about it, correct or not? Because otherwise, some of these roles and responsibility will be a disaster. Which is what's happening. I mean, you can see that with some of our senior, the older generation. There are certain roles that they are playing in their life are disastrous. Why? Because very clearly, when they were younger, they did not invest to be ready for it. Invest now. To me, there's no problem with even 70-30 for some of you. Okay. Wow, 11 o'clock already.
Yeah. The end. Thank you so much, Edmund.
Well done.
Okay, so that's all for the sharing.
Thank you, Mabel, Edmund.
Thank you.
I was in bed.
So nice.
Then I put my headset on. Then I put my kids to sleep. The whole room is dark. Yeah, then listen to your sweet voice. Good night, all.
Good night.